My subject sounds rather complicated, inbound and outbound investments. And when I was writing that, and I was suggesting that, I was thinking, well, I hope not too many people will fall asleep. Because in fact, as I explained earlier on over lunch, it's a rather complex subject. It requires an understanding of the legal environment, an understanding of what's happening politically, and also an understanding of motivations and people's interest. Anyway, my father, or cutting a long story short, my father, not only a manufacturer of porcelain, was also parliamentarian and rather an accomplished speaker in public. And he told me this when I was preparing for my first public speech. He said this to me. He said, keep it short, keep it to the point, make sure whatever you say is essential, and please make sure that nobody falls asleep. So I always try and bear this old wisdom in my preparations for any kind of speech. And therefore, what I would like to do now, I would like to tell you a little bit of an anecdote that maybe brings home to you what I'm actually talking about. The anecdote goes like this. Einstein, you're familiar with Einstein, dies. And he goes to heaven, and he stands at heaven's door. And the gatekeeper says, I'm sorry, Einstein, but I can't let you in. Your dormitory is not ready yet. You will have to stay in another dormitory, and there will be various people there staying with you. And he said, okay, fine, not a problem at all. Off they go. They open the gate. They go down the corridor. They go to the very end of the corridor, and he opens the door, and he gets into the room, and there are 4 people there. He introduces him to the first person, and the first person says, my IQ is 180. And the gatekeeper says, yeah, that's amazing. I wish I would have an IQ of that. And Einstein says, wow, that is fantastic. We can discuss mathematics. He introduced him to the second person, and his IQ is 160. And he says, wow, that's amazing. We can discuss physics. The next person's got an IQ of 100 only. And he's introduced to him, and he says to him, wow, we can go and speak about plays, the latest movies. It's fantastic, we'll have a good time. And then in the end of the room, in the corner, sits a rather sad person. He gets up and slowly walks along to Einstein, and he says, may I introduce myself? I feel very humbled in your presence, but my IQ is only 80. And Einstein turns around, has a beaming smile on his face, and he says, why? This is amazing. He puts his arm around his shoulders. He says, do you know, can you tell me where the interest rates are going? So, what do you need, or what does this tell us? It tells us that you don't have to be an economist like myself to make economic decisions or to understand economics. What you need is common sense. And the economy is made out of many different parts, and if you have common sense, and if you're guided by common sense, then also decisions will be good decisions. And they won't lead into disaster. Which brings me back to the time before 91. The economics and also the leadership at the time weren't guided by common sense. And therefore, the openness to the world for Indians going abroad and investing abroad, and likewise for foreign investors to come here is very important, and I believe it's a policy guided by common sense.